Fuel scarcity has worsened across the country over the weekend despite repeated assurances from government. Queues persisted in Abuja, Lagos, and several other cities throughout last week as people scrambled to get petrol for their cars and electricity generators at the time of rising temperatures. But on the other hand, the issue of fuel subsidy removal has continued to be on the forefront. That's on the front burner, of course, of national discourse, as many have expressed various opinions about the impact of the deregulation or non-deregulation of the downstream sector at the moment. However, President Buhari has insisted that fuel subsidy will be completely removed in 2022, as it is no longer sustainable for the government to fund and release of money for the provision of critical infrastructures across the country. Let's talk more around this and other issues. I'm being joined live by a partner, Zara Advisory and Consulting, Mr. Joseph Nwakwe. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you on the show, Mr. Nwakwe.
Thank you, Tolu. Pleased to be here.
Yes, I would like to start with you. What's your view regards to the resurfacing of queues around all our filling stations? Are we going to continue like this for some time? Because it's looking like no clear picture anywhere. NNPC says they have enough stock. The marketers say they are not buying at the approved pump price. A lot of questions everywhere. Let's start on that note before we move to other discussions around the sector.
Okay, I think we need to try to understand the structure of our domestic fuel market. I think, yes, my simple answer to your question is I'm not surprised. It's not out of the ordinary that we'll have these sporadic shortages. It has to do with the structure of our industry. Remember that today we have a single supplier. And that means that whenever something happens to that single supplier, the entire market is at risk. So the market is not sufficiently developed to absorb whatever kind of shock. That's why we're told it's flawed, we're told it just tells you how fragile both the market and the supporting logistic infrastructure is. So yes, it's not surprising that we're having these occasional shortages. It could just be as simple as a mistake in planning. It could be some breakdown in the infrastructure, in the supply chain. So the market is not sufficiently robust enough to absorb shock. That's what that indicates.
We see subsidy payments climbing as fast as I can, considering the price of crude and what is happening in the international market. In your thoughts, how sustainable really is this? Before I ask further questions, first, do you think we're looking at 11 trillion naira for a whole year? Can we continue to do this as a country?
The answer is no. I mean, everybody that looks at the numbers will tell you that these subsidies are not sustainable. Not even when we had resources. So you can then imagine for where we are today, we just cannot. There's no way we can continue to subsidize petrol. It's just a complete misallocation, if you ask me, of very scarce resources.
So there's no way we can sustain this. So if we can't sustain this, we're moving on, and government is saying in 6 months subsidy would go. When subsidy goes, we'll buy a liter of fuel for as much as 400 naira, in some cases higher. With the present purchasing power of Nigerians and the inflation rates that we face, do you think we can contend with the fallout of this development if we go ahead?
Well, that's why if you listen to some of the conversations we've had around this, I've always advocated that we we have to have a program to remove subsidy. It is not a light switch. You don't just wake up in the morning and suddenly stuff that you buy for 180 becomes 400. That's not the way economies are run. So I think that there should have been a plan 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever time frame, to gradually eliminate subsidies, PMS subsidies. But I haven't seen that that's the case. What that tells me is that in 6 months, maybe we'll start the journey of removal. It will not be complete removal on day one. I do not imagine that any government will do that because that will be tough on the citizens. So I think that, and I will continue to advocate that what we need will be a stage or what we call a phased removal program, where you gradually, over a predetermined period, gradually ease off on those payments. That way, the impact on the market will not be too drastic. Uh, that is what I hope will happen. Even if it's in 6 months, that's probably what's going to start happening. I do not just imagine that we will wake up one morning and petrol is 400 naira. That will wreak a lot of havoc in the economy.
Indeed, it will wreak a lot of havoc in the economy. But let me also ask you that I think we need to address the issue of transparency here with regards to level of consumption. I spoke to somebody on Friday, an energy analyst, around the same topic. And you would hear marketers say selling outside Nigeria is more profitable than even selling here. Countries where you can sell a liter of fuel for as much as a dollar, and that is more than 400 naira officially, and about 700 naira on the other side. So do you think that if there is more transparency across the board, we could do better with managing subsidy?
Well, that's a very complex question you just asked. So transparency in terms of reported consumption levels, or transparency in terms of pricing, in terms of what comes in, because the subsidy amount, the quantum of subsidy is actually computed on both. So there's a landing cost component, and there's, of course, the volume component. So when you say transparency, my sense is, let's even take the volume. Um, Once there's a differential in price between a country and what that product is sold, across the border, there is an incentive for people to smuggle the product across the border. Now, you and I agree that our borders are not particularly well policed. So what that means is that once you create an arbitrage opportunity, people will take advantage of it. They will move product across the border. The last time I checked, for the West African coast, their average PMS price is above 500. It's between 480 to 6 something, depending on where you are. So that's a massive arbitrage right there. So there's an incentive for people to move product from here to Togo, Benin, Ghana, Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and sell it. So that's, I don't know that you can get any more transparent with that. Is that how we end up with the volumes we report? I doubt that. I doubt that you have enough trucks to move that quantity of product across the border anyway. So there are a lot of issues, yes, around that. If you were to go back in time, you remember in May 2016, when the price modulation scheme was introduced, and we went to 145 naira per liter. At that point, we were recovering costs fully. There was no subsidy. So what we need to look at is the volume of consumption at that time. So you look at May, June of 2016, July, what was the consumption? That number is between 32 to 35 million liters a day. So that gives me a sense of what our normal consumption should be. So if you're in that range, then you ask me, so that's you're looking at 30 million more, 30 million liters more. How do you move 30 million liters more across the border? You're going to need maybe 2,000 trucks. Where are those trucks? Do we have 2,000 trucks running across the border every day? So there are challenges with that as well. So what I think is that rather than go through all of this, let's take the surgery. If you have a boil that's just there and they say, oh, you can continue to manage the pain over time, and then you start applying balms and all that. At times, what you just need to do is buy the bullet, take the surgery, get rid of it, and then you recover fully. So my sense with the subsidy scheme is fundamental. I asked the question, what was it designed to accomplish? What was the objective of PMS subsidies ab initio? The question is, have we accomplished that? Has the objectives been met? The second question is this program open-ended? Subsidy schemes are not supposed to be open-ended. They are supposed to address specific issues, right? So it's almost like being on life support. You give somebody oxygen. It is not imagined or assumed that the person will be perpetually on oxygen. So if the subsidy scheme was designed to address a specific problem, the question is, have we accomplished that? Should we continue? If not, should we redesign it? Are there specific things that because clearly the subsidy scheme was not designed, for instance, to help with domestic refining, because it has had the opposite effect. It has discouraged local refining. So we need to ask ourselves, what exactly are we trying to accomplish with the subsidy regime? And when should it end? So those are specific questions that we need to address. I mean, I understand the issue about sustainability, yes. But if we had a good handle on this, then the decisions will be easier to make. Have we accomplished the objectives? If not, should we continue? What benefits accrue to us by continuing? What are the challenges? Clearly, we don't have the resources to pay for it. How can we fund it? My sense is, buy the bullet, roll out a program over a year or 2 years, and then gradually win yourself of these subsidies. I think we'll be better off in the long run.
Before I let you go, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and ask you that we have removed subsidy from the likes of aviation, from diesel, from kerosene. But many will tell you that we're yet to see positive impacts across the sector. Investors are yet to come and take advantage of all of this space. What do you make of that?
Well, that would not be right. I don't know the last time you heard that there was scarcity of diesel, or the last time you heard that, oh, we don't have aviation fuel. Yeah, there are pricing issues. Those are expected in a fully liberalized market. Prices will respond to market forces and people will cry out and all that. But ultimately, in the long run, when you liberalize the market, there are significant benefits that accrue. The thing to note is that all of those other products are byproducts of crude refining. And primarily the 40%, 50% of the product you're refining is PMS, right? So we will not see the investments in production or refining for diesel, because that will not happen as a standalone. If you look at the model, except you're doing the modular refinery model, which is the small one, you're not cracking and all that. So yes, have we started seeing investments in diesel, for instance? Yes, we have. And I imagine that if we were still fixing the price of diesel, most of those investments won't happen. So that my argument will be that if we had deregulated PMS prices over time, we would have seen much more investments in refining, which will help produce both PMS, diesel, aviation fuel, kerosene, and all that. So that would be so this is like key, central to the entire refining process is PMS production. So the benefits we would have received from the refining end for liberalizing the market for diesel and is held up because of these PMS subsidies.
Well, worrisome trend there. Now, before I let you go, I would ask you that we all know we're already in an election season and a lot of agenda being set. For the oil and gas industry, what do you think should be the quick wins for anybody that becomes Nigeria's next CEO?
Well, it's difficult to talk about quick wins at this point. Things are pretty tough for the industry. The industry is going
globally,
through
everywhere.
a very, very difficult time for the industry globally and locally. But if for the new government, I think there are specific things they should focus on. One of them is liberalizing the downstream market completely. I think is key. One is implementing the PIA faithfully. We haven't, in my opinion, we are not doing it right. So I think whoever comes in needs to approach it with a bit more vigor. Hopefully, we'll be able to unlock most of the opportunities that exist in the sector by doing that. So, and then of course, the crude theft is very key. So I think if you deal with the crude theft issue, implement the PIA, deregulate the downstream completely, I think that any government that does that in these first 4 years would have done very well for the industry.
I must thank you so much for your brilliant intervention and contributions as usual. I've been speaking to Mr. Joseph Nwakwe, his partner, Zara Advisory and Consulting. Thank you so much for your time. Also a past president or chairman of the Society of Petroleum Engineers. Yes, thank you so much. It's good to really have you on the show. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Tolu. Have a nice day.